Welcome to the Punk Rock Health Podcast. It's another exciting episode, and today we have Ben with us, author of this lovely piece, which I've been enjoying the last week or so, just having a little read of. So, let's begin at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, what's the root for this work?
The sole purpose of the book was essentially recovery based. So I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I use a 12-step recovery program, which for most people would be fine, I suppose. But I'm not someone that follows God. I'm very much an out and proud Satanist. When I can be, I suppose. Sometimes you have to hide still.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to hide at work.
Wow.
But I can be open enough at times. But essentially, so what I did with the 12-step recovery program was I overlaid a satanic perspective onto it. I didn't change any of the words. I kept the word God in there, and I just redefined what God was. So for me, I am God, as I'm an atheist Satanist. And yeah, I suppose we can get more into the
workings of
that. The workings of what Satanism is.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's similar to, or based loosely on, the classic 12-step recovery.
It's exactly the same. It's essentially exactly the same.
And that's alcohol recovery, but they also use it for other kinds of recovery.
NA, Narcotics Anonymous, there's obviously Cocaine's Anonymous and other places like that. But what I wanted to do was not change the steps. There was loads of other groups that they changed the wording in the steps, and I got really frustrated with that because you ended up then having people with different pieces of paper in the meetings going, oh, well, step 2, that means this.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't want to do that. I want to look at the steps because they're normally on the wall, and say, okay, someone's talking about this. What does it mean to me?
Redefine it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without changing the words. So, yeah.
And do you think that, because with recovery, the steps will mean different stuff to different people, you know?
I think so, yeah.
It's a personal journey.
It is, yeah, and it's an evolving one as well. It's not just you do the steps and ta-da, finished. It has to keep going and you have to keep working it, as with life, I think.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a practical guide, almost like being a sponsor. To an imaginary sponsee, I suppose, and saying this is how I did it. You can use those tools that I used, or you could say that's a great idea, I'm going to change it and adapt it.
Or tweak them yourself, yeah.
Yes, and for me that's what it was about. And it wasn't designed to be a best, worst drinking story.
Absolutely,
I mean?
yeah.
I tried to keep as much of me out of it as possible, but just saying this worked for me and this is how I did it from a satanic perspective, rather than saying these are the satanic steps and you have to change all the words and the numbers are different, and so no, it was to then let the recovering alcoholic or addict that identifies with Satanism or even the left-hand path and go into any meeting anywhere in the world and look at those 12 steps and go, okay, I can relate to that.
Not be put off by the religious aspect.
Exactly. You still get the Bible thumpers in the meetings, and they can put you off. They really can.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because everyone deserves recovery.
Yeah, I think it's interesting actually because you've kind of made that 12-step program a lot more accessible because it's a very sort of Christian religious kind of recovery, isn't it? It's that kind of God vibe. There's not a lot of room for other interpretations, but I think in your interpretation, because it's kind of rational Satanism, it's about the self and knowledge of the self. And now I study counselling, and a lot of the things you say sound to me like counselling steps, like ownership and, looking at yourself and also making peace with your own self. And, also even when you talked about a little bit about Jung and shadow self, and I was like, this is seems very sensible to me as somebody who studies like therapy and counselling. And I'm like, wow, you may have just made this a lot more accessible across the board.
Hopefully.
Well, I feel like it, if you can kind of put your feelings or your baggage about the Satan word on ice.
Yep.
Because everybody has like a weird baggage about
Yeah.
the Satan word, you know, or the Satanist as words without understanding,
Exactly,
just connotations,
yeah.
films and so on.
Yeah.
If you just took the book, put that on ice and thought to yourself, I don't know anything about this.
Yep.
I'm not educated in Satanism at all.
Yeah.
All my preconceptions on ice, and just took what was in the recovery.
Yep.
I think it is a lot more accessible, because I would be solidly put off by the Bible bash.
Yep.
Just because of its non-inclusiveness.
Yes.
That puts me off. It's not
Yeah,
really
yeah.
religion that puts me off per se. It's when people feel like they can't access something that could help them.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I thought that was very cool, actually.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, I struggled a lot, I will admit, in sort of early meetings, especially when you had the people that, you know, mentioned the word God. I literally turned into the girl in The Exorcist and was, you know, crawling up the walls backwards. They mentioned God.
Reagan.
Yes, and then I had to kind of reel it in and go, but that's their interpretation and that's their experience, you know. So when you have people in the meetings that say, you know, I was really drunk and, you know, then God appeared before me and told me I had to stop, and I'm thinking, really?
Yeah.
That's actually your subconscious just giving you a kick up the backside to go, you need to change.
You came through for you.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe that's more empowering.
Yeah.
I mean, from a therapy point of view, I guess for me, like, I would say that would be more empowering, that you can hold your own hand.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and who's with you in your darkest hour? You are. You're
Yeah.
always there. You know, so
no,
if you can
exactly,
hold your own hand, it's
Yeah.
better than.
So, I mean, even one of the steps, it says you have to admit your faults to God. So I have to sit in front of a mirror and say, this is what I did wrong, and I do it out loud so I can hear myself say it, and that can be really, really powerful.
Yeah. Hearing yourself say stuff is a wonderful tool, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a lot of the time when you see a counsellor or a therapist, just saying it out loud is a big part of the therapy anyway. You know, just hearing those words come out of your mouth and you think, wow, I really do think that, or I can't believe I never admitted this properly. You know, it makes it real in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Even more so than writing. I end up writing loads and loads and loads. I think when I was writing the Uncover Satan, Recover Thyself, I ended up having 3 notepads on the go at once, and I was literally just writing all the time. And I end up answering my own questions sometimes when I'm writing, which I find really weird. But I think we do that anyway. I think deep down we all know the answer to a lot of the questions that we're struggling with.
Yes.
We just go to other people to validate the answers that we've already come to.
Yeah, I mean, the humanistic approach to counselling is kind of that whole thing of, like, the person who's come for the therapy really knows the answer. As the therapist, you don't know the answer. The answer's in them, and they will lead themselves just through talking and being accepted and being allowed to see it through without judgment, you know. And I see a lot of that in your work there, and I'm thinking this is really solid stuff, actually. It's like really good therapy work, you know. I mean, and I love the kind of Satanist aspect in that, because I'm, you know, a metal alternative goth lifestyler, you know, forever. So just the kind of the words and the aesthetic and the look of the book and all of that really appeals to me. You know, whether I feel like, you know, I want to go down a satanic path or not, or, you know, how connected I might be with those ideas, it doesn't put me off. And I really enjoy being in that world. That's a very familiar world to me, you know, which felt really good.
That was one of the reasons why I kind of went that way with the book, you know. Not only am I a Satanist, but I am a metalhead, you know, and I have been since I was a kid. I decided at one point that I was going to try and do the sort of dance music, and, you know,
we all give it a spin, don't we?
I think I was in year 8 or something, and I remember having like a luminous green shirt, and I kind of wanted to be Kevin from Kevin and
Perry. Yeah, we all went through that little Ibiza flex.
And it just felt wrong and weird, and I couldn't do it, and then got back into the rock and the metal, and but when I came into recovery, someone sort of frightened me when they said that your music taste will change.
Oh.
Because you'll relate the songs to drinking and times where you're drinking, and I kind of went, I don't want to do that. Change. But it did, and he went down a big dark black hole.
Did you stop listening to like Hell Yeah and start listening to Satyricon?
Basically, yeah. I was more of a sort of Fear Factory, Metallica, Slipknot, and then went down a black metal route.
Heavy road.
And death metal, and down the extreme paths.
That's interesting.
So it was really interesting. It was my wife actually that gave me a copy of a double album by Gorgoroth, and that kind of ignited the flame. And then I got into Enslaved. It was just after the Vertebrae album came out, something around that kind of time, and really kind of took off then. Ooh. And then I discovered Dragged Into Sunlight, and
nice. I think there's something extremely like cathartic about all of the really heavy music. I think if you are really feeling stuff, it's very good to be in a kind of a barrage of sound, and that kind of takes you over, and it takes it with it, takes it away from you. In a way, you find a lot of peace in it. I think.
But I've had people before saying, "Oh, you can't listen to all this sort of heavy, scary, evil, or depressing music all the time. You need to listen to something happy." And so I tried that, and I was on the train when I was doing it, and I literally wanted to kill people on the train. I remember getting to the station at the end of the train journey, and I changed it, and I felt my whole body just sort of go, "Oh, thank God for that." I'm listening to metal again.
Gosh,
Feels so much better.
I think people that don't really love metal don't understand that it is happy music to us. I remember a friend of mine listening to Pantera and just being like having a lemon face, and then I was just like a big smiley face, and I'm like nodding my head and I'm going, yeah, it's great, and they're like, and it's like we hear it differently.
Yes.
To me, I'm hearing guitars and it's happy and it's full of bounce and fun and kind of groove, and they're just hearing a lot of noise that makes them feel uncomfortable.
I still remember the first time I listened to Sun, actually. I was washing the dishes and I had my headphones on and I stuck Sun on, and the hairs on the back of my neck stuck up, and it's one of a proper goosebumps moment. I was like, this is amazing. And I was like, my mum really likes heavy metal music as well, and I played it for my mum, listen to this, and she just looked really confused. It's like, this sounds like I'm standing behind a jet engine. And I was like, well, isn't it amazing? No. But for me, that's what I meditate to. I meditate listening to Sun. That really takes me to a place where I can kind of get out of myself, and I think I need that level of noise to quiet my mind.
Tune it out,
What's more interesting is when I listen to depressive, suicidal black metal, and I can turn it off, and stuff like the oven being on, I can actually hear the guitar tunes still in the sort of fans of the ovens.
It's weird, isn't it? That I've noticed that before, with a few things, and you're like, oh, is that music? Sounds musical. It's kind of still ringing in your ears somehow.
So that's you being a bit like the guy in Spaced, who's the courier. Who's always, he's really into his like acid house stuff, and he's always raving to the crossing. So that's our kind of version of that. Really, isn't it?
I got the Hoover on, and you're just like, So when did Satanism come into your story?
Sure. So I've always been interested in magic and witchcraft. I remember being sort of 5 or 6 years old in the garden and mixing up spells in a bucket.
Oh, that's awesome.
The garden, I get the book out. Yeah, we're going to do this. My mum was a white witch before I was born, and then she kind of stopped doing that stuff and got into Christianity, and has now come back the other way.
Oh, lovely.
Which is not my influence, I promise.
Full circle.
But so when I came into recovery, I always didn't want to go down the God route. I saw it as swapping my addiction. I was swapping my addiction for a drink or a substance, and replacing it with Jesus or God. And I didn't want to do that. If I was going to have anything at the centre of my recovery, it had to be me. And that was the driving force behind that. So I looked into Odinism, and the Norse gods was something I was drawn to. Purely for the fact that there was multiples of them, and they were not infallible. You know, they were not some perfect, all loving, hypocritical God.
There's a lot of personalities in the Norse gods,
and that's what I really liked. I explored Norse mythology, and I met up with someone from the Odinist Fellowship, which was the longest running Odinist group in the UK, who was also in recovery, and I felt that they'd bastardised the religion and made it into something that it wasn't. So they were talking about different tribes, and this tribe does that, and that tribe does this, and you know, that tribe, you know, smokes marijuana, and that's a big no-no because our tribe isn't like that. And I was like, okay, you're sitting in an Italian restaurant, you know, drinking Colombian coffee, and you're talking to me about different tribes, and like, you know, and I'm blondish haired and blue eyed, and I was like, I'm just going to end up being some kind of poster boy for you. So yeah, I don't really want to do that. So I thought about going out on my own and sort of crafting something more for myself, but I felt that I needed more of a structure around that. And then I reread the Satanic Bible that I bought on a drunken night out when I was 19. And it was one of those books that I bought with a couple of friends, and we met sort of 2 weeks later in the pub after having read it. Obviously we met in between then, I'm sure. And they all said, what a load of rubbish, and I had the book and I was like, that's me. That's exactly how I think, and that's exactly who I am. And it was amazing. I'd never sort of experienced that from literature before. And it made me want to explore more of that, which is what I did. So then I looked into sort of UK-based groups, and I came across the Church of Rational Satanism. And I followed the group for a number of years before I decided that I wanted to become a member, because I wanted it to be the right decision. So I read most of the literature before I even decided that I wanted to become a member, and I interacted with loads of different satanic groups, and it was something that I studied first, and it wasn't a light-hearted decision. So when I decided to sort of come out, I suppose, and say that I am actually a Satanist, everyone was like, yeah, we know that. Tell us something we don't know, you know.
Like, not just because I listen to metal, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm all in now.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just a look. Weren't you always? No.
So it's a bit like I suppose people that would say that they're, you know, gay and coming out is something that I've always been. You know, it's that kind of mindset that I've always had. So it wasn't, you know, I've converted to this.
You didn't to sort of discover it. You just found something that matched your frequency. Something that kind of matched you.
So when I, you know, told my parents, they were like, well, that makes a lot of sense.
That's nice. That's a nice reaction. At least they didn't throw a Bible at you and go, get out of our house, you know.
No, which is great.
That would have been frightening.
My grandparents were sort of more worried because of the stuff I was posting sort of on social media that they saw.
Right.
But my mum was the interesting one, because she, you know, my nan would come, oh, have you seen this picture he's posted? And my mum was like, have you read what it says underneath it? So, no. She said, you should read it, it's really good.
So, good on mums.
Yeah, and then sort of from there, becoming a member of Cause, I kind of studied the philosophy more and developed an accreditation course for them. As a way of other people being able to study it in a sort of similar way that I did, which was really nice. And then I got asked to become one of the chairmen and sort of more of a spokesperson for the group, which was great.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, there's not an internal hierarchy within the group. Everyone's on the same level.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, a title for sort of organisational purposes.
Yeah.
More than anything else, you know.
Fantastic.
Don't, you know, have a title of Grand Master Wizard or something like that, you know, completely fictional and is no good to anyone. So there's no sort of peacocking or parading around in the groups. Everyone's on the same level.
That's really cool.
We disagree and agree often, and I think that's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Within the groups.
So if somebody wanted to find out a bit more about it, if they've got like an inkling that they might be something Satanist in their heart, you know, where would you recommend they start to look?
There's loads of places online. Obviously, the Satanic Bible's a good place to start.
Yeah.
With the Church of Rational Satanism as well, you've got the website, churchofrationalsatanism.com. There's essays on there that you can read and other bits of information. There's Satanic Recovery. It's got some bits and pieces.
There's loads of little citations, isn't there? Loads of little footnotes. So you can, you really like, that was cool actually, because if you come across something in your book and you're wondering what it's all about, often there's a little footnote tells you where to find more, and that's really helpful.
Yeah. I didn't want to make it a be all and end all as well. There's bits of information in there that I haven't linked in to make you look. You know, one of the titles is actually in French. For the sole purpose that if you research the title, then it actually brings you out somewhere that's quite magical.
You get a gem.
Yes.
You get a treat. Get a little reward.
But that's what it should be about. You know, and it should be about you developing yourself and running in directions that, you know, you find interesting.
Absolutely.
Without someone saying you need to study this and this.
This is the pathway. Now you take it. You can kind of free roam a bit more.
It's about someone showing you the door and you walking through it and then making your own discoveries afterwards, and then coming back and saying, oh, look what I found over here. And it's like, oh, that's really good. You know. So
as you kind of discovered Satanism, or found that kind of resonating with you, and you were kind of moving more towards that, is that in parallel to recovery, or had you started recovery before and it hadn't quite worked?
I'd started recovery and made some headway. I'd had a sponsor that kind of, it worked okay, but it needed to change. I picked him because he was sort of more of a mate than a sponsor, I suppose. And then I went down the road of a more Christian-based sponsor, which was interesting. It was interesting to do the steps from a sort of a Christian perspective when you weren't really a Christian. But I think it was worthwhile for me anyway. But then I was sitting in a meeting, still sort of struggling with the higher power thing, and someone said, well, why don't you use the rooms as your higher power? So I kind of went, well, when you read the Norse mythology, the Norse gods sometimes manifest as people. So maybe everyone in the rooms is a manifestation of one of the Norse gods. That's an interesting concept.
That's fun,
and maybe they're all trying to give me a message. And then I kind of equated that to sort of the Jungian idea that the Norse gods are aspects of our own personality. So if maybe everyone in the room is an aspect of my own personality reflecting back at me, then I am the satanic figure. You know, the devil sitting on his throne, and everyone in the room are my angels and demons. And if I can get to understand who they are and what they're about, then I have more control over, you know, the aspects of my personality that I want to reflect or strengthen, or say, you know, pull the reins in and go, hang on a minute, we need to stop you for a minute.
That's fascinating. I think, you know, because we do see everybody through our own eyes. There's there's a good quote about it, and I will just mash it and make it awful. I'll just spit it out, which was something like, there's a version of you exists, multiple versions of you exist different in everybody's eyes, or the only version of you that you think you are exists only in your head, or something like that. It's basically sort of saying that everybody sees you differently, and true self only exists to you because everybody kind of takes a different take on your behaviour and who you are. So really, you are sitting looking at your take on those people in that room and what they're saying. So, you know, it seems to be very true. I mangled that quote up good and proper. Gosh. I'm going to have to write some kind of apology.
I got the gist of it though.
You feel me? You know what I'm getting at? Yeah, so I do think that, you know, there are lessons in that, you know, because you are looking through your lens. Your lens will inform you what you think is important, what resonates with you.
But I think with individuals as well, the scariest thing to look at and to learn about is who you are as an individual.
Gosh, yes.
And that was one of the hardest bits for me to go through. So in the 12 steps, it's basically your step 4, where you take a personal inventory. And I did it through a process of mind maps. So I've got a recovery folder that's like an inch thick, and I've got mind maps that I can overlap and literally put out on the living room floor, and I can see all my behaviour patterns to figure out, okay, now I know why I went over there and did that kind of thing, because it relates to this, this and this. But then you get a chain of events, and you can see where this is where the start is and this is where it ends up. So once you see the chain of events and you notice something happening about here, you can stop it before it gets over there. And that was really helpful.
Wow.
That was a really amazing thing to find out. And then it becomes all about gnosis and self-knowledge rather than, saying that, I drink because, my dad left when I was 3.
that you're kind of getting to the root.
Yes.
Getting to the real root, the thing that makes the hand go to the mouth, the trigger, the real kind of reflex. It's buried somewhere down that line, and you're looking at your history or whatever, and it's your behaviour. Something in you snaps and makes the decision. So you do have to sort of track the chain. Take it
and
all
I think
the
there's
way
been
back.
some big changes in the whole idea of recovery anyway in recent years. A lot of it was based on the Skinner method, where he would have a rat in a box and it had the 2 buttons it could push, and one was for like water and the other one was for, I think it was heroin or something like that.
Opium or something.
And the rat would always go for the drug. But what they've realised now is if you actually put things in the environment of the rat that it can interact with, it doesn't go for the drugs. It actually will have a richer, fuller life.
It would take the wheel and the social, other rats, mating, normal stuff. It's the fact that it's in an alien environment where it keeps popping back to the substance.
So it's our interaction with the substance then that causes us to end up with the addiction. I've always had a sort of abnormal interaction with alcohol from a young age. I remember meeting up with my biological father when I was 16, and he was telling me about the first time I had a drink, which was 2 years old.
Wow.
So it was, the story kind of went that he was sitting having a drink, watching the telly with my mum, and I've said, mummy beer, daddy beer, and they've gone, oh, yeah, all right then, if you're gonna go and get one, being a helpful child. And they've heard me go into the kitchen and grab the the stool out and go into the fridge, and I've come back and I've got daddy beer, mummy beer, Ben beer, and then sort of open the cans, and they're thinking he's gonna taste it and it's
spit
not
it
gonna
out.
be, and apparently I downed the can and then ended up jumping up and down on the sofa.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So but I mean, my first memory of drinking, other than sort of family Christmas gatherings and stuff like that, where you nick a drink,
have a little cheeky bit,
was being, I think, 11 years old on a school ski trip in Switzerland, and I drank an entire crate of beer on my own.
Wow. Quite a tolerance then.
But that straight off it was basically alcoholic drinking from the beginning. But the beer did for me what a phone box did for Clark Kent. I turned into Superman. I was that little shy red-headed kid that wouldn't say boo to a goose, was right in the middle of the dance floor. Let's have it large.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, I've got an interesting relationship with alcohol, which is that I love it. I just love it so much. I love drinking, and that I know that I feel like that. So I really watch my relationship with alcohol, because I know that I feel like that. And I used to say, if 2 drinks can't fix it, you really do need a doctor. Because it was like I could have 2 drinks, 2 nice glasses of wine, and be ready for anything. And it almost becomes like you find yourself saying, oh, I can't really do that without a drink. Or I have to go out and hang out with people, be social. Things that should be pleasant and pleasurable on their own. And you're like, no, I need to warm up. And I've got quite a tolerance for alcohol as well. So I'm thinking, I'll get there and everyone will be chatting away. And I'm going to need to be 2 drinks in before I get there, so I'm ready. So then I'm, having one before I go, and a tin of gin on the tube or something, Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it does, because it kind of, I always say I'm better on alcohol. That was what I would say. Well, I'm just better on a drink.
Yeah.
You know, I'm funnier, I'm more with it, I'm more pleasant to talk to, I'm better at conversation, everything flows better. And with being a performer, I'm better on stage.
Yeah.
You know, 2 drinks and I'm a better performer. And I just honestly believed I was better on a drink. And that was my perception of self.
Yeah, I used to do the same as well. I used to do some compare work when I was working for Fresh Sounds, when we did a unsigned showcase at the Mean Fiddler, and I think I was 8 cans of Carlsberg or something before I'd even go on stage and pick the microphone up to say hello to the audience. But yeah, I think the important thing to be aware of is when it becomes a compulsion rather than an indulgence.
Yeah.
And that's the important distinction to make.
Yeah.
But I know from my teens that on Tuesday I wanted to know what we were doing on Friday. And I was thinking about Friday's drink on Monday.
Yeah.
You know, we'd get absolutely, you know, ratted at the weekend, drinking, you know, goodness knows what we could get our hands on. And by Monday sort of afternoon I'm going, when's the next drink coming, you know, what are we doing on Friday, where are we going, I need to plan, I need to know. Holidays were a weird one with the family. I mean, we do proper sort of old school British English family holidays.
Nice, Butlins or something.
Well, no, we go down to Swanage, down in Dorset, caravans.
Oh, lovely,
but when I say the whole family go. My wife's not a big fan of it. There was 36 of us this year, all related.
Gosh.
So yeah, but so because of that, there's eyes everywhere. So I would hide drink.
Oh wow.
You know, lots of my relatives didn't know I had that much of an issue. Because I could be all right during the day, and then of an evening I'd drink, you know, a whole bottle of Southern Comfort to myself. Wouldn't come back till 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, and then I'd be up really early so I could have a couple of drinks, so I was, you know,
ready to go.
Ready to go, so you didn't get the hangover. So literally just drunk for the entire week.
Stave it off. Addiction really finds a way to survive. I find, you know, that's always a bit of a telltale sign, is that if you're kind of planning your behavior to make your addiction work, you know. So you know, if you're going out with friends or whatever and you're kind of stashing a hip flask or something, you know, you're kind of doing, or you know that everyone's going to want to go and you're going to want to stay, so you've already got 2 bottles of wine in the fridge for when you get home, because you've seen it coming, and your addiction finds a way to flourish. You know, and that's always a thing to look out for, is like how much planning is going into enabling myself to have this. You know,
and waking up with drinks in your hand is another scary one as well.
I've not done that.
I would constantly wake up with a beer bottle where I'd fallen
you'd
asleep.
Not gone off with it.
Fallen asleep. Oh, there's still something left. That's good.
Straight back in. Whew.
And then living at home. I think I left home at 22. But at 22, like, it would be once a week. You'd have to take the bedclothes downstairs because you'd spilt something all over it, or you know, and that's always frightening as well. You know, having sort of come home and, you know, not knowing how you got in, and the blackouts, and being aware that you do stuff during a blackout was frightening for me. I always thought, you know, you passed out and you know, you're a heap on the floor, but
the game was over.
That's it. Nothing happens. But no, finding out you actually do stuff during a blackout was quite scary. Especially near the end of my drinking, where I was having sort of 7-8 hour blackouts, and not knowing what happened in that time.
That must be so frightening.
There'd been a couple of times where I've sort of come 2 in the morning and gone, oh, how did I get here? What did I do? And having to know who you were with the night before to kind of go, what happened last night?
Piecing it back together.
You
ever get the horrors? You wake up in the morning just with that horror feeling of like, what did I do? I know I did something. But I don't know what it is.
And then it goes into that cycle of shame. Oh no, I did something really bad, and then I need to drink to get rid of the shame, and then you're in that cycle now. You know, drinking to get rid of the shame, and then it goes again. And yeah, I was lucky that nothing really bad happened to me.
Mm.
I got set on fire once.
Oh, hey, we've all been there, mate.
Yeah. So I think it's like Lick It, Stick It, Burn It. Someone decided to play while I was passed out on a sofa. So they stuck the razor to my bottom lip. And then, luckily there was someone about to put me out because they thought I was going to wake up, and
You just didn't.
No, I didn't.
It's very frightening. I get quite frightened when, after a sort of heavy session, you come home, you remember coming home, and you kind of, I got myself to the bedroom, but what would happen is I would wake up to the light, the sound of the telly, and the feeling hot because I'm still dressed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, and I'm on my bed, and I'm like, well, what happened?
Yeah.
Got home, crashed through the door.
Yeah.
But somewhere in putting myself to bed, my body's just gone, nope, down you go.
Yeah.
And that's really weird. Makeup on, eyelashes on, lipstick everywhere.
Yeah.
Half of chicken burger in your hand, telly on, like all the sound and the light and the heat all at once.
Yeah.
You're back, and you're like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard stories from friends as well, where they've witnessed me go. I think I was outside a club in Camden, and I bought a kebab, and they said the lights literally went out and you hit the deck, and I literally just crashed straight to the floor, and they didn't know what happened. They said literally like you were there, and the next minute you just weren't. You were just gone. I didn't drop the kebab though.
Isn't it funny, alcohol, what it takes from you, but it gives with the other hand, in that you never drop your drink, your kebab, you manage to crash, but you keep some bit of preservation in your brain goes, I'm going to need that.
Yeah. And it's the drunken injuries as well. I nearly shattered my jaw. I snapped my knuckle on my little finger, nearly broke my wrist, all in one movement of being drunk and having an argument with some crazy paving, I think.
Oh my gosh. Did you find that the feeling of wanting to live differently came gradually, or did you have a moment of like clarity where you were like, this has to stop?
I think in the sort of living differently, it goes back to that kind of idea of someone that's gay coming out. I think I always had that satanic idea running in the background of this is who I am, and I fought against that for so long.
Okay, interesting.
And it was the drinking that was masking that. I didn't like being with me.
You weren't ready for true self.
Yeah, I didn't like who I was. I couldn't be with myself. I remember one time when my wife went away for work, and we were living in a flat at the time, and I moved the bed into the living room so I could watch the telly. And one Saturday, I think it was, I decided to watch Black Books with 2 boxes of red wine, and I got through 1 box per season. And then went out to the pub afterwards and ended up drinking absinthe with people because they'd done it in the TV series.
It's an interesting take on box set.
The lonely soldier.
Oh man, wow.
But yeah, so it's that kind of whole, I didn't like being with me and who I was. So I mean, the job I do now, I work on my own. And I'm very isolated where I am. So I had to really make sure I was comfortable with who I was before I took on that job. One of the things that someone reminded me of was if you read the book for The Shining, he rings his AA sponsor at the beginning and says, do you think I'll be all right to take this job? And he says, oh yeah, you'll be fine, you just need to check in, I think it is. And you can see how that ended.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because that's kind of what's going on with alcohol. I saw a counsellor. I was having a hard time, and hard time with myself and who I'd become, the classics. And I was drinking a lot through that. And I was talking to my counsellor about it, and she said, well, Kelly, you have problems, and then you drink about them, and then you have two problems. You have your problems and your drinking problem. That's what you're doing. You're adding, another problem. And she said, you might solve your personal problems, but you'll probably still have a drinking problem, because that's very addictive. Even when you're over what you're drinking about, you'll probably carry the drinking problem. And I was like, oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. And knowing that I'm a bit, not prone, but I love alcohol and I really love it. And I thought, oh yeah, I'm the prime candidate for this case. I had, before I saw her, I think it was actually, I had a night where I had clarity. I had the clarity moment. And a few of my friends have been through therapy, recovery therapy kind of stuff, not for alcohol, but for what was making us drink or what was making us behave, you know, that kind of therapy. It seems to be a common story that you have these moments where you go, I'm not who I should be. This isn't where I should be. This isn't what I want to be. Or, and I remember I was at a bar and I'd bought 2 shots of tequila, a double whiskey with an ice cube and a pint of beer. And my friend came over and she said, who are the drinks for? And I was like, oh, they're for me. They were all for me. It was like, I'm going to hit these 2 tequilas, then I'm going to drink my whiskey on my way back to everybody, and then I'm going to have my pint with everybody. That was my plan. And I was, and we'd been out, this is like late, we'd been out for dinner. We'd been out since about 6 or 7 o'clock, and it's now 1. And this is my behaviour.
You were lucky you did dinner.
True, so enforced dinner, wow. I never give up on my food. I like to eat, but that was my moment. And I looked around and there was a friend of mine, 2 friends of mine that were in the bar, and they were quite a bit older than me, 2 ladies that were quite a bit older than me, and they were kind of, they had gone through bad times in a relationship and stuff, and I was kind of seeing it all play out. I kind of looked at them, where I might be heading and what I was doing, and I thought, I've got a choice in this moment. Am I going straight into that? I had one friend there and she was like cracking on to some young dudes, and it was, everyone was going, oh, and she was stressing everybody out, and another friend who was kind of going over the top a little bit about some other stuff, and I kind of just thought, this is, because they're acting out their pain. And I am, and I'm just 10 years behind them or 20 years behind them. And if I stay in the situation I am, this is kind of the trajectory. It was...
I had a similar thing as well. I've got another relative who's got alcohol-related issues, and he has to get his stomach drained.
Wow.
Because it's got... So that was kind of, it was that you're going to end up like that. Do you want to end up being like that? And it's, that was the kind of reality check that, no, I don't want to be like that. And he's a lovely, lovely man as well, And he's really great to talk to. He's just carrying that with him, and he's got that burden to bear, and he really struggles with it. He really struggles with it.
Because you can't take it back.
No.
That's the thing, especially with like my dad was saying recently about one of his friends that had a problem with the liver, and he was saying it scars and scars until it just gives up, and it's like you're fine until you're not with alcohol, and then you can't take it back. It's done, or you've got a small % of your liver left or whatever, and that's it, you've done it now. The decision's made, you can't make amends. And that's very sad. So I think I was one of the lucky ones, and I caught it in time. So there are people that would have gone a lot further than me and had it a lot worse. Definitely.
Hopefully that the book can give those kind of people as well some kind of hope. Especially if they struggle with the G word. But for me, like I say, it's something I had to redefine and put as me. So obviously lots of people struggle. How does that work within Satanism? So I mean, but normally what I do, because I do something called the Human Library as well.
Yes, I was going to ask you about the Human Library, because I think it's brilliant. So.
Yes, it's amazing. And for me, it's been really good as well, because it allows me to ask questions of myself that I probably wouldn't ask without someone else asking it to me.
We need to fill in on what the Human Library is quickly.
Sorry.
You go. Explain the human library. A little bit.
So basically, individuals with unique stories or lifestyles become a human book, essentially. So you'll have a title, and then you'll talk to members of the public, or sometimes we go to diversity training courses for large corporations. I prefer those, actually. I think they're quite interesting. So members of the public, they will read a board with all the different titles on. They could be sort of autistic, gay, trans,
widow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some fantastic titles. You know, rape victim is another one.
Wow.
So they're kind of hard hitting, and they make you think. And it's all about changing your prejudices, you know, and pushing back. And you know, one of the ones that I've read was someone in a hijab, which was really quite interesting, and we had a really good conversation. You know, I mean, the first corporate event I did, I randomly ended up sitting next to the gay vicar, so that was good, and we had a really good discussion about sort of
faith and fantastic.
So that was really good.
Wow.
Obviously, yeah. So part of that, when you end up picking your book, you then get to talk to them for 20 minutes about their title, and you end up, you know, learning more about them. And it's a safe space for you to ask questions to individuals that you might meet in the street and want to ask certain things, but don't feel you can do.
Yeah, that's great. I think you can break down so much with discussion with two people around a table, or, you know, human to human.
Yes, it's very difficult to hate up close.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, without a keyboard and miles to protect you, or to kind of let you deaf out what the message they're trying to tell you is. You know, the human response. You know,
Heineken did a really good advert, I think, based around the human library as well.
Build a bar.
Yes,
fantastic work. Yeah, it was really good, wasn't it? They had was it a trans lady and an army guy?
Yeah.
That was a really good one. I recommend anyone to watch it, because it's really interesting, because you watch it and it's like, oh, you feel very tense, because you're like, this is going to go really wrong. This is going to go ugly. Yeah. But, you know, because you know where they're going to, where they're heading. Yeah. And they surprise you. Yeah. Humanity and being just two people that can look in each other's eyes and feel each other, you know, kind of takes over. Yeah. Marvellous.
It's fantastic. And, you know, I love doing the human library, but so because of that, I sort of have to break down and sort of dissect Satanism so it's digestible for people that are sort of really on the outside. Yeah. I've had some fantastic discussions because of that as well. Yeah. One lady wanted to start a human library event somewhere else in the UK, and she was suggested to come and read me as a book, and I'd never seen someone so petrified in their life. She was literally shaking.
Oh, wow.
Which made me laugh, which made it even worse
for
her.
No. I could just see how that played out.
Yes. But she didn't want to stop talking at the end. No. I think we were like half an hour, and she was like, can we keep talking? And I was like, well, actually, there's a queue now. But just so within that, I have to break it down. So I normally start off by saying that if you think of belief in God as belief in something else, the opposite inversion of that is belief in the self. So as a Satanist, I believe in me. So within that, there's four fractions. You can get the theistic types that believe in an actual literal devil. For me personally, I see those as people that take an internal aspect of themselves and externalize it so they can have a more personal connection with it. Right. I'm not one of those. You've got the atheistic Satanists that see Satan as an archetypal figure, something to be like, to aspire to be. I like the concept, and I kind of use it a little bit. I think I touch on it a bit in the book. I'm not one of those. Then you have the agnostic types that don't really know, and they see Satan more as an energy or a spirit. Okay. So they sometimes get lumped into be called spiritual Satanists. I kind of like that idea as well, and I kind of mesh that with the atheist style, I think, as well. But I'm not one of those either. I sit in the camp of I theist, as in I am God because I am master of my own reality. And that's kind of how I play it out.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, especially with regards to recovery, you know, putting yourself at the centre of it, because really that journey has to be a self journey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very much so.
And do you find, so that's really interesting actually, saying about the shaky lady.
Yes.
Let's just call her the shaky lady. I was reading your book on the tube, and also like I work with the public, so you know, when I'm out running a tour and I'm reading it on the tour bus, you know, I've had it's weird because I've never really thought about that kind of judgment that Satanists actually face. So like a lot of people coming at it with a lot of baggage, you know, and a lot of fear, you know. And I sort of sat on the tube and I was thinking, is anybody looking at what I'm reading, and is anybody judging me because of what I'm reading, and how are they feeling about my presence? Suddenly, am I threatening? Are they, you know, am I causing fear? Which for you know, sort of 5'6" jolly looking person, I don't really cause a lot of fear. I mean, you know, unless you get on the wrong side of me. But yeah, you know, it was kind of an unusual feeling, you know. Because I'm used to getting the odd funny looks, you know, blue hair and wear a lot of black, whatever. But it felt different. I felt like, am I freaking people out here? You know, that must be very.
I generally try and play on it. So when I go out to gigs and stuff, I've got studded jackets with, you know, full black metal patches on the back. And I make a point then of letting the old lady on the bus first. And, you know, giving my seat up for women on the tube. And, you know, Satan, of course, is a gentleman as well. So, you know, play on that.
That's how he gets your soul, though, isn't it? That's how he gets it. He's very charming. And then suddenly he's got your soul and your pants off and it's all gone wrong. It's a total nightmare. Oh, yeah. No, it's quite weird, though, because, like, I felt like... should anybody ask me, there's so much explanation beyond the baggage, because you know the baggage that's carried, you know. It's like, because even as an alternative person, you know, you get people going, oh yeah, you worship the devil, do you drink blood? And you're like, where are you coming from? Like, and then to feel like another layer on that, like, God, they probably think I eat babies now. Which is always fun, you know, having two children myself, going around the supermarket, you know, putting them in the trolley. I'm buying this one, this is for later. Stick a little price tag and a barcode.
666.
That's fantastic.
But so it's having fun and playing with that idea as well. But the blood comes from an aspect of Mars anyway, that's brought into the character of Satan. Blood being the life force, and the moving element of Mars. Which brings in the whole red concept, right? Because Satan originally, as a character, was first depicted in the 6th century in an Italian church in Ravenna. And the mosaic is actually Jesus, purple in the middle, and then on his right there's a red angel with 3 sheep, and on his left is Satan or Lucifer as a blue angel with 3 goats, and it's the separation of the holy and the sinners are the goats. So the first depiction of the devil essentially is a blue angel, and then it goes into sort of blue demonic characters, because it's the dualistic idea of day versus night, good versus evil. That's why the Christian good have the sun halos, and the evil doers have the crescent moon, which is generally seen as the horns, and that's where you get the feminine aspect of the sun and the moon.
Lunar, See, now I'm mind blown, because what you're saying is the devil is blue and like Saint Nick is green, and it's the all branding, and they're all red because of and they're all red because of Coca-Cola.
So no, I think for me, when I looked into it, the different aspects of different gods all come in and sort of mesh together. It's blue because dead people are blue. And it's the underworld,
the dead
as
and
well.
the underworld and all
so
of that.
During the Satanic Panic, Smurfs were considered to be satanic because they were blue, and dead people were blue.
Flipping hell, Satanic Panic, that was a whole thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, there were loads of things that were lumped into things that would turn you evil and nasty. Dungeons and Dragons was a really big one.
Yeah.
I was more of a Warhammer fan myself.
I love a bit of D&D, mate.
And He-Man, Thundercats are in there, so that was me gone anyway.
Oh yeah, we're a whole generation ruined then, aren't we? If He-Man's off the table.
Yeah, G.I. Joe I think was in there, and
he was evil.
Yeah,
that was an evil occasion. That's crazy, isn't it? And I think Satanic Panic is a lot of what we're dealing with when I'm worried, like people are looking at the book and I'm reading something that's a bit satanic looking, and that's what they're pulling on, is that hysteria.
Yeah, and the horror scene kind of ties in with that as well. Films like Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist and The Omen, and
I love
fantastic films.
70s horror, that kind of unseen evil, brilliant.
Yeah.
Just so brilliant. And they often played on this, is it madness or is it evil?
Yeah.
Is the devil rustling the trees and he's screaming at it, or is he just losing his mind,
Which relates back to Iblis, which is from the sort of Islamic scriptures, and that's the lie.
Yeah.
The one that whispers the untruths.
I remember saying to a friend of mine once about... because we knew a guy who was a born again Christian. Was he a born again Christian? He was very heavily Christian for some reason, and he was often vocally offended at my clothing. So I had a Creepsville skirt, had a big 6'6" on the butt, and he was like, "I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't wear that around work." And I was like, "Well, that's tough, isn't it?" That's kind of like you infringing on my freedom. So I'm not really into that. Anyway, but we got to talking about angels and demons, and he's like, "Oh, probably got a demon in you." I was like, have I? That's exciting. And I remember saying to some friends of mine, I said, look, I'd rather live in a world where we had angels and demons and I've got a demon in me, and that's, a whole thing, and that's magical and wonderful, than live in this kind of this plane of just no demons, no angels, no magic, no wizardry, no nothing. And I sort of am a little bit seduced by...
you need that level of fantasy.
And
excitement.
And I think that even to a degree, people that are very religious in a sort of Christian way, that get kind of into the Satanic Panic, or into, like the guy asking me not to wear the 666 skirt, it's almost like they're finding a fantasy in it, and they're involved, it's more exciting, isn't it, than just look, my skirt really isn't gonna cause you any harm, mate. It's that's ridiculous, it's a skirt, but he would rather live in a world where he's offended by a number that had but it has meaning and weight, and it's not just a number, which is amazing, because I mean a lot of the symbols that people deem as satanic generally aren't. You've got the inverted cross, the cross of St. Peter. It's Catholic. In its origin, St. Peter was or deemed himself not worthy to be crucified the same way as Christ, so they just turned him upside down. The pentagram, the 5-pointed star, is seen. So the Wiccans have the main point pointing upwards to be the 4 elements and spirit. Satanists generally will turn it the other way up to have the point down, as in the 4 elements and self. Which also represents the goat of Mendes head gets fitted in there as well, which is also known as a Baphomet sigil. But it was also used by Catholics as the 5 wounds of Christ. Yes. And of course, it was used by Pythagoras for his philosophical school. It also contains the golden ratio within it, which is see in art. So mathematically, as a symbol, it's completely magical. Very appealing as well. Speaks to us on a lot of levels. Exactly. And I like that occultness of symbols, the hidden aspect. I really like the hexagram, the 6-pointed star. Beautiful, because it's to do with male and female. It's the 2 triangles, male and female, coming together. That's the point of intercourse, and where the divine spark happens, where life begins. It's beautiful. Exactly. I think because I love like all the satanic imagery, always have done. Just Baphomet everything all day, every day, put it everywhere. And I wonder if the thing that I love about it is, you know, because I kind of come from a very accepting background. It's all easygoing. And perhaps if I was come from a Christian background, I would possibly be obsessively Christian, because it turns me on a little bit. You know, like the imagery is, I like it. It's good looking, you know, and I guess if you apply evil to that and you're against it, then it winds you up. Makes you fired, makes you fearful. You know, it's that kind of, I guess that's the thing about the goth look, isn't it, as well? Like, you get people that aren't goth are always curious about it. I always find you get, like, when I was late teens, early 20s, you know, giving it trash PVC goth Marilyn Manson kind of look, you get very sort of straight-laced looking lads coming and talking to you, because they're just like, what is all this? This otherness, you know? It's kind of...
They're fascinated by it, but they also... see the kink element in there, and they expect you to be, you know, more adventurous, I suppose.
Perhaps, be very disappointed. It's funny, isn't it? That perception. That's a lot of what we're dealing with, I think. You know, we were talking earlier a little bit off podcast about music and metal, and, you know, it's almost like metal and Satanism have a crossover, much like goth and fetish do.
Yes.
They're two completely different worlds, but there's this little penumbra, not penumbra, little Venn diagram where it kind of, you know, mixes, you know, and that's where you get a lot of people misunderstanding what they're looking at from the outside.
Yes.
That from the inside, you know very much where you are on that spectrum. You know. But,
and I suppose with the metal side as well, as a Satanist, you have to deal with the people that run around throwing their horns up, you know, hail Satan.
Oh,
and like, really?
Yeah.
It's not something I say very often at all.
Kind of offensive, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, essentially, it's just them saying, yay me.
Yeah.
You know, if they're Satan, it's them saying, yay me.
Do you often wish, when you see people kind of doing that goofy stuff, you think, oh, go and read about it. Go on, please. Go a little deeper. Go on, it's calling you. I'd like to talk to you about our Lord and Master Satan, you know, knocking on the door.
More interestingly, it's, you know, ask them, do you know where the word originated from? Because it was from the 1500s, and it was actually the Catholics and the Protestants calling each other Satanists because they weren't following the one true path of God.
Oh, fantastic.
So, you know...
Pot kettle Satan.
Yeah. You're not following the same thing that we do. You must be evil. But I think that kind of derives then where the whole, you know, calling something satanic that you don't understand fully or that you don't agree with, that's evil and nasty and, you know, satanic. I think there was an article that came up recently about Halloween candy or sweets. It was an American article, obviously, candy, saying that Satanists give out the sweets to, you know, make all your children turn satanic. And I'm thinking, really? Are you just trying to stop people having fun?
Yeah.
Is that what it's about? For some people, maybe it is. They like that element of control, I think.
Gosh. Yeah, the fun police. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that, isn't there? You know, anything too fun, too indulgent is evil.
Yeah.
Because they want you to stay on the path they want you to stay on.
Yes.
You know, where I think that's where Satanism is actually really dangerous. Not to me, but to you, but
to others.
If you're an establishment and authority, it's quite a dangerous set of ideas, isn't it? You know, I'm in the middle, my truth counts, I make my own decisions, I'm not accountable to a higher power that judges me, I judge me, and I need to be all right with that. Yeah. You know, that's a dangerous set of ideas as far as order goes.
Yes.
You know.
I mean, that was one of the reasons why the Romans converted to Christianity. It was to give the poor hope of reward in an afterlife, and was seen as an element of control.
Yeah.
You know, if you're good now, you get this special magical place you can go to.
Toys R Us.
Yeah. Doesn't exist anymore.
No. See, that ties peculiarly into my next point, which was I heard on, I think it was a lecture, somebody arguing that basically what religion did for us with regards to evolution was that order and peace allowed us to grow and to become civilized, and that actually we've gotten to a point now where it's causing us to be less civilized, and we're not letting ourselves move on any further, so it's actually damaging our evolution at this point, this kind of organized looking at a deity and answerable to a higher power, and you know, fearful of innovation technology, or you know, saying certain people can't do certain stuff because of that, or that people are lesser than them. It stops us evolving as a human species, you know.
I mean, religion through the years has been useful. I mean, if we look at modern day medicine, it came sort of from the Greeks. That's why they still do the Hippocratic Oath.
Yes.
And then it went from the Greeks over to Islam, and they added their elements in. Then the Christians of Europe got hold of it and adapted it more, and you know, now it's modern medicine effectively. So Christianity has done positive things. You know, and religion has done positive things. But like I say, there is that element that, you know, that controlling element that
maybe we could
get rid of.
Get rid of in some respects. I mean, I love the idea of church and community. Like, in a lot of sort of older relatives of my friends and family, they really get a lot of community from the church. Yeah. You know, and if they find that they get some support, and especially, like, you know, as you get older and people lose their partners and suddenly you're living on your own at 80 and you find love and warmth there, and I think that's great. Yeah. And I would never want to kind of knock on that. And also, if it makes you a better person, if it gives you a drive to be a good person, great. But really, I think as human beings, we should be aspiring to have community and be good people without fear of an imaginary kind of, or possibly imaginary, I don't know. You know, come rain of sort of fire on us, you know, Judgment Day. It's like, well, every day should be
cold, wasn't it? So
what was it?
Yeah, someone sorted out the heating, obviously. But I mean, it's fine for people to have religious faith, and you know, if it makes them be better people and gives them strength and hope and comfort, that's amazing. But if you try and put that on me and say that I can't do something because of your beliefs, then I turn red and grow horns. You know?
Sort of like hulking out. Absolutely, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Like the journey of faith and where it serves you and where it doesn't serve you, you know. Actually, I've got a question about... so if you're, as a Satanist, sort of, and in the self, is there do you find spirituality in that? Is there something, you know, outside of self that's involved there? Or is it very much about, I'm here today and I'm the centre of it? Or are you kind of thinking about nature and forces in nature? Or is it, you know, is there anything? Yeah, no, definitely.
I mean, I work with nature, so I'm bound by the elements, should we say, sort of with the weather and what I can do. It needs to rain at the moment, I know that much. But no, I like magic, like I said. I do perform magic. I think we all generally do if we're looking at lesser magic. Lesser magic in terms of spelling, as in writing. Grimoires as in grammar, and sort of, you know, language generally. If we define magic by one's ability to manipulate people's emotional states, then you do that through the written and spoken word. You know, and I think day-to-day manipulation is a great part of lesser magic. Working in the physical realm, and I think two massive words that get used quite often in lesser magic are please and thank you. You know, please, can you pass me that? And thank you very much. Makes you do it again. Absolutely. But I think a lot of it comes down to terminology and how we choose to define things. I did a talk a little while ago at Atlantis Bookshop on spirits, and it was not really saying this is what a spirit is. It was more saying these are the different ideas of what a spirit could be, and it's about finding a common ground with who you're talking to as to what that is. You know, so you can have like nature, river spirits, and then them being sort of dragons and stuff. When you look at sort of Eastern artworks and stuff like that. But then looking at it in terms of vibrational frequencies and how you feel in certain spaces with how it, you know, how you react into it and how it reacts to you. And then saying that, you know, that is what a spirit is. And then do we have a spirit, which is the, you know, like the vibrational frequencies that we give off, and how we interact and then play with other people like that. So.
It's interesting. I because I love kind of mystery and otherness. And I, you know, like I said, I'd rather live in a world with angels and demons. Like I like a bit of, like, in the book, I understood your points about magic, and it kind of made it like, gave it a kind of realness.
Yep.
Like it's kind of a real thing. It's like a thing you can kind of quantify and work with. It isn't like this kind of, you draw this not imaginary, but this power from something else, and that gives you influence in something else. It's kind of, you made it quite kind of, it's
well, for me,
tangible,
magic is
sensible.
all mentalism. It all happens in the head. So... I mean, with cause, we've got a concept called 9%, 10% thinking. So you're 90% essentially in reality. You've got that 10% for the fantasy element for when you do big ceremonial rituals and stuff like that. But it's almost like a hallucination. You know, if you're taking LSD or mushrooms, what you see in that hallucination is 100% real to you, and you can't explain to me that there's demons or whatever running all over the table. That's your reality, and you have to own that and define that for yourself. So when I do perform rituals on my own, and images pop up and things pop up, you know, are they because I've invoked them? Or are they because I've convinced myself that there's something there, and that's for me to then define what that is and interpret it in different ways. Yeah,
and the brain is so powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, the placebo effect is the most, consistent medicine. It always performs. It always kind of gets a result, and that's basically saying the brain wants it, so the brain gets it.
Yeah.
That's, incredible. So, that you kind of made it kind of... a real sort of, not tangible quite, but kind of a realistic idea. Magic became quite a realistic idea, which I enjoyed. But I love the idea of it being a kind of airy-fairy thing that you kind of flows through you in the sky. Like I kind of like that. But
that's the whole point in doing sort of ceremonial magic is you're playing the role. You're acting out that thing.
Yeah.
Your rituals can be as elaborate as you want because you're playing on your fantasy, and you're creating that psychodrama to change how you are as an individual, to drop something in your subconscious so you can go off and perform it without having to think about it. It's a bit like that concept of if you look for love you never find it, but when you don't look for love, your perfect partner kind of just drops in your lap kind of thing. So it's working that idea. It's because your subconscious is not getting blocked by your conscious brain saying, I need to look over there and do this.
I'm trying to find love today. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting actually, because you find like similar ideas when you kind of break down things like the people that do the laws of attraction stuff, that they're really into that, and also spell casting in general, and prayer, chanting, even certain exercises we would do in like counselling therapy, for example. Write down the thing that you think's blocking you, crumple it up, and then we did it in class with my tutor, and then you hold it in your hand and then you fall into his arms, not romantically, just physically fall back, and then because you let go, trust and fall, and then you chuck it in the bin, and it's like this physical act helps your brain understand that you're letting go of the idea you put on the paper. And it's like, even so you find it in all strains, that kind of harnessing, changing us in our reality.
I think I touched on it, or I speak about it in the book, setting fire to the piece of paper so it no longer exists. Tying it to a balloon is a great one, and then you actually physically let it go and say goodbye to it.
Satisfying. Watch it go,
Off it goes. It's really when the balloon pops and it lands back in your garden.
Oh my gosh. And then you're like, something else is at work. That would be me. I did a Myers-Briggs personality test, and one of the things it said on my personality type was looks for meaning in everything. And that is me. It would land back in my garden, and I'd be like, I'm never doing that. I better just stay here and not move house after all.
Or maybe you're just not ready to let it go yet.
Maybe not.
Hold on to it for a little while and then let it go at another point.
Do you have thoughts on synchronicity?
Oh, very much so. That's very much part of magic, and seeing those, and then saying, there is meaning within that. You can, rationalise it away, but then what's the beauty in that?
Absolutely, Wow. So how does all of that how does magic sort of play into recovery? Is that, kind of focusing your energy into like moving past the addiction?
I think so, and it's also having a bit of fun at the same time. I'm involved in a magical group at the moment, which my sponsor's in,
cool.
which is interesting. So it's an 8-month based ritual.
Wow.
Yeah.
How'd you do a ritual for 8 months?
We're meeting every month.
Okay.
And we're doing different bits and different parts.
Okay.
And it's been really rewarding so far. We're sort of 5 months in now. So we're getting there, and it's good fun.
Yeah.
And it's making me look at myself in a different way as well, and it's changing my perspective and giving me different avenues to research as well, which is great. So I'm kind of covered in magical stuff anyway, in terms of tattoos.
So you feel like, it's always growth, it's always a journey, and it's always about looking at yourself and how that changes, and keep reflecting back. And I
think even with the Satanism, what rational Satanism did for me was it gave me a foundational framework to work from, and things like S theory, which is a multi-layered system. So whereas Christianity would be like one layer, if something fell outside of that, like being gay, for example, you would have to say that they're wrong, or you have to say Christianity's wrong.
Yeah.
And then you have to throw that away and then start again.
Yeah.
I need to now pick a new religion or a new faith-based system to work from. With S theory and it being multi-layered, when something doesn't fit inside that, you just get rid of the layer that doesn't work. But it's about having the overlapping points to create something that's unique and personal to you as an individual. And I think it's that idea of being able to change things and move things within a foundational system that we have that works so well, because I'm not going to be the same person in 5 years' time that I was 5 years ago.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's being able to adapt and change that makes us future-proof, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to say, it keeps you relevant as well, because I think that you find that a lot in other religions, that they're like, we're going to say that being gay is fine now. Yeah. But we've persecuted it and hated it forever, but look at the modern world, we're going to lose following if we don't get on board with this. We're going to have to go back on what we said, and it makes it kind of not imperfect, because you don't need it to be perfect, but it gives it a kind of
for me it was I think it was about 10 or something, 9 or 10 primary school, and we learnt about the Reformation of the Church, and Henry VIII. And Henry VIII decided that he wanted to get divorced, so he was going to make up a religion, and that's how he got the Church of England. And I kind of went, but he just made it up. Does that mean they all just made it up then? And that was me, sort of 10-year-old, going, well, this is all just rubbish.
Exactly. You have that moment where you're just like, well, my guess is probably better than theirs. It's like an unbiased kind of no agenda take on religion is probably better than what's been forced on you.
I think I remember at that point as well, kind of thinking, but if you're not going to follow it to the letter, then what's the point?
Like
follow it all or all or nothing. I suppose that's how I ended up with my drinking, wasn't it? All or nothing.
Well, it's kind of like recipes, isn't it? It's better to cook with a bit of flair and a bit of heart than to follow the recipe to the letter. Why can't we apply that to our spiritual lives? We can apply it to our cooking. But we can't apply it to our spirit. We feed ourselves physically, but we can't feed ourselves spiritually in the same way. And
if we follow our internal black flame, the thing that we are passionate about, then it's not doing something for the sake of it. You're doing it because you enjoy doing it. And that's why I think you get people with cause. We generally get lots of people that are sort of African descent that say, I want to join Satanism, I'll kill my sister if you make me rich and famous. And you're like, but that's their way out. But because they're seeing people that are not afraid to do what they love and enjoy and are good at, that they think, they've given something to be like that.
You have to pay a big price for that freedom, but you don't.
But you don't. You just have to do what you love.
Let yourself.
I suppose what's the phrase? Do what you love and the money will follow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we live in hope. Fantastic. Right, it's been really insightful. Really, really insightful, and I really have enjoyed your book. And I just think, it's especially as somebody who's had an interesting relationship with alcohol, I'm always interested in, how that works. And I just love the kind of parallels with what I found in good therapy. There's a lot of that in it, so I would recommend it 100%.
Lovely.
As a read.
It's been great chatting to you.
And you, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Cheers. Hail thyself.
Yes.